But yeah, somebody had a question up there?
Of course, if you run for governor, you're challenged with all kinds of different issues. One that probably you're aware of, and getting away from education and environment here. What's your position on the rampant welfare programs that are going on in the state? Runaway social programs that are child welfare every day.
Roughly speaking, we spend $1 billion on social services and stuff. And a lot of that cost is where our generous eligibility standards are above the national average, where our mandates are above the national average in healthcare and stuff like that. And so we've pushed our costs up. They're good programs, they're just very, very expensive. They're very generous. We make them available to absolutely everybody. What I would propose is that we bring all our eligibility standards and all of our mandates down to more or less the national average. That would save us between $100 and $200 million a year. And the reason I present it so simply, because Mike could say we're not going to have the person that gets off the bus the first day get welfare and all that. I mean, I can go through that litany. But very simply, if what we do is we bring down, that's where the low-lying fruit is for our state budget. That's where the big costs are. And I don't think for a people where our family income is only 80% of the national average, to still have a system of social services and health that's 100% of the national average, but not higher, is too much to ask. So that's how I would go at it. And then I would work with legislature, I would work with the commissioners and stuff like that. Then you have to let things fail. I mean, in the private sector, in higher ed, Nassau College closed, Rickard College closed, Casco Bay closed, Mid-State closed, Westbrook merged into UNE, NESCON became part of Hudson. I mean, that happens all the time. And I think you can see that consolidation. And I said, I don't begrudge John Baldacci for his starting year ago, but it failed. Let it go. It's not working. And I think that's what we've got to do is get rid of those kinds of things. We have MAHIFA, which deals with hospitals and higher ed investments. We have FAME that deals with industry investment. Merge them. They do the same thing. Then you've got economies of scale. So there are those things, but when you really push, it's that big welfare and healthcare, eligibility and mandates that are way above the national average that we just can't afford. And so with the power of, the bully pulpit, with legislation, and obviously with the power to veto, as a governor, you've got to tackle that. I mean, that's just no more than 1/3 of the total problem we're going to have next year. So it's going to be pretty brutal. The answer is the lion's share is going to come out of health and human services. It's the only place it's really where hundreds of millions of dollars can be saved, and we simply can't raise taxes.
Is that part of what your focus will be if elected, is to try to work on those costs and bring those down?
Oh, absolutely. I'm committed to bringing them down, and I'm committed to start lowering taxes. You can't just drop them down instantly because you're compounding your deficit. But you can start by freezing all the things that are there and not letting this nibble taking away all those programs. And I think you could tweak down the death tax, the corporate income tax, the capital gains tax, but you can't do it simultaneously, or it's just going to be revolution. But somebody's got to make decisions that are just going to make them very unpopular, I plan to do that with a smile on my face and be as compassionate as I can. Freeze positions, so that we just basically begin to close out, and just close out every bit of legislation, regulatory stuff, these layer upon layer of regulations. I mean, if Massachusetts can approve and have a default yes on a permit for 120 days, and if the state doesn't get it done, it's approved. That's what happened to that last referendum. Then Maine can do that, and so that's something we can start right doing.
To continue, not necessarily welfare, but I'm slightly here in town, Farmington. We're continually seeing shifts from the state level for the town to pick up. Highway funds, we're losing money hand over fist, registration fees. I mean, it's coming from every different angle. States claiming they're lowering taxes, but yet it's just a shift to us.
They have the mandates that come with education, and then they cut the reimbursement for education. I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. On education, I feel very strongly in the homeschool, the charter school movement. It's bizarre that to this day, the state's still fighting to try to keep away from charter schools and coming up with some alternative. It's nuts. Homeschool, if that kid would get some money to go to a regular public school as a tuition student from a small town, why shouldn't that student be able, family be able to take a tax write-off to the same amount? I mean, I think that would address that kind of issue and have some equity coming into the homeschool movement. I can say I would commit not to do that transferability. One of the problems is the Constitution, the federal government, the federal Constitution and Bill of Rights doesn't give any authority to the towns. The towns are a creature of legislation. And I just think that it's just incumbent that we protect the town form of government. And there's this idea of regionalization and this idea of going to counties. I mean, that's what we left Europe for. I mean, you had these counties that were owned by lords of the manor that owned all the land and easements and stuff like that. And we came up with almost kind of a religious kind of idea that each church stands on its own basis, and we greet these small communities, and it's served us awfully well for 200 years, 190 years, I guess it was. The other reason I'm a Republican too is the Republican Party is basically, people know the general things, but when it started in the 1850s, its strongest view was that no group of people should be able to direct the lives and how other groups of people live. And it was specifically related to slavery, but in my personal life, that also relates to the right to life. And that's one of the reasons where you kind of say, how does a person, how does their religious values impact them? My feeling is you have very clear separation of church and state, but I think your internal values of what really drives you as a person obviously weigh in on issues that come before you in legislature.